treat it like it's part of your job, because it is. And the dividends are going to far outweigh the pain of you got to do it. And I mean, it changed our lives, and I mean, it can change anybody's life.
Welcome to the Property Management Success Podcast, where we interview leaders in the industry to uncover the secrets to profitability, efficiency, and achieving true freedom, whether it's your time, money, or lifestyle. I'm your host, Tony Klein, and I'm here to help you build a wildly successful property management business. Let's get to it. Welcome back to another episode of the Property Management Success Podcast. Today, I am joined by Barrett Freeman with Freeman Brothers Realty LLC. Barrett, I'm excited to have you on. We've known each other for a few years now, and we've become even more closely familiar with each other as we've been working on a couple of projects. And so let's dive in. Let's just tell the audience a little bit about who you are. So welcome to the show, and let's hear a little bit about you.
Thanks for having me. My name is Barrett Freeman. I live in southeastern Kentucky, very small town, very rural. We're definitely a big fish in a small pond, which I guess I prefer because we still live here after so long. But I am an attorney. My brother and I have been investing in real estate for the past 8 years. And through investing in real estate, it brought us down some different avenues we never thought we'd be in. We got to about 80 doors really fast within 3 years, and we were managing them horribly. And so we kept reinventing the wheel. We were doing Excel spreadsheets, probably a lot of the same mistakes a lot of people make when they first start trying to self-manage. Very old school, not using technology software. And then I looked online, and there's a great organization called NARPM, and that's where I met Tony. About 6 years ago, I saw Tony walking around. He seemed well connected. You seemed well connected. You knew everyone. We maybe met, but I definitely knew who you were before you knew who I was. But through the NARPM organization, we learned how to manage our stuff better. And then after a few years, other landlords in the area started asking us to manage their stuff, because we would be telling them all these new techniques we're using, software that we're learning from NARPM. And so we looked into it and realized we need to have our real estate license. So I went and got my real estate license. I became a broker. And now we manage around 160 doors on top of the doors that we own. So that's the big picture.
Yeah, I want to make sure, and you've made it pretty clear, but I want to just emphasize the fact that you are one of, people get into this business a few different ways, and one of them is the landlord that winds up owning properties. So you came into the business as an investor, so that's really your background, is investing in real estate. And then from there, you opened it up to third-party management, and that's where we've been trying to grow that business. And I know that there's been a lot of ups and downs trying to roll that out. It's different managing for yourself than it is managing for other people. And we'll get into what you're doing to grow that business and some of the things that make you pretty unique. But I want to start with talking a little bit about the market that you're in, because I think all real estate is local, and some of the principles apply universally across the country, but you guys are in a really unique market, I think, and I'd love to have you just talk a little bit about that.
Within 20 miles in any direction of where I'm sitting right now, there's only about 30,000 people. So we have 3 towns. My town only has 8,000 people, and then the surrounding area is probably 30,000 people. We have we have the biggest building on our main street in our town of Corbin. So you can't miss us. It says Freeman on the building, my last name. So we already had a pretty big presence anyway through my legal practice. So, a few years ago when we started to actually manage for other people, I was like, why aren't we selling instead? Or not selling instead, but why not sell as well? So recruited a few agents, and all of a sudden I looked up and I'm in sales, which I've never been in sales before. So I was like, well, how do I connect to people? How do I stand out? So I decided to focus on growing my social media presence about 2 years ago. And through the social media, all the big platforms, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, I just started ducking my head and doing everything I could find to grow our social media presence. And through that, we basically were the biggest name in sales management in our area. And also, not to get ahead of ourselves, but we started saying we buy houses to grow our doors and then to do flips. And all of that's been through social media.
You mentioned that when you were talking about the market that you're in, that you were in a very small market. I think you mentioned 30,000 people. And a lot of times I'll hear people that are in small markets talk about, well, if I could just be in a big market where there's a lot of people, then I could manage more properties. And then the flip side of that is I hear people that are in a big market say, well, if I was in a small market, there'd be less competition on the property management side, so I could manage more properties. So I think it's just really finding your unique spot in the market and staking a flag in the ground and just saying that I am going to be the best known, the best positioned property management company. And as you mentioned, it wasn't your intention to start a property management company when you first started doing this. It was, I'm going to buy and invest in properties. Right. I know we're going to dive deep into the social media stuff, which is something that I'm really interested in, and I think a lot of our audience is too. But I want to go back to those first 80 doors and talk a little bit about what got you started in the marketplace and just buying those doors, because I know you mentioned you were an attorney, and to me that seems like there's pretty good money in the legal profession. And so what drew you from that into being an investor in the first place?
So my father, my grandfather are real estate developers as well. So we basically just had to create something for ourselves just to learn the business, or make all the mistakes in a small scale, because we knew years down the road we'd actually manage my dad, my grandfather's portfolio, and also grow it ourselves. So we got into it just to create something for ourselves and to learn it, because we knew whether we liked it or not, we had real estate coming in our future. So that's what got started. And then all we did was start driving around our hometown on Saturdays and Sundays, learning the area, looking at all the houses, seeing the for sale by owner signs, seeing the realtor signs. We reached out to every realtor, we reached out to every landlord, and we just sat down like this and just had a bunch of discussions. How did you get started? How do you manage it? How do you buy? So we talked to everybody we could, and then we realized we had to save up that 20% for the first down payment. It took us about 6 months of my brother and I combining our legal income, and then we bought our first 2 doors, and then it just grew from there.
There's some pretty unique investment opportunities in Kentucky, and I think that this is, I don't intentionally want to make our folks in California and some of the West Coast jealous, but I think this is going to make them a little bit jealous, because there's people in Denver, in Colorado, where it just doesn't make sense right now to buy an investment property. It's very difficult. I won't say it doesn't make sense, but it's more and more difficult to buy a property that either cash flows or appreciates. And as you mentioned, in Kentucky, you guys are continuing to buy properties, and we'll get into another business that you've got where you're actually helping other people do that in the same marketplace. But share with us a little bit about that unique opportunity you have.
Well, let's talk about the numbers. We're 10, 15 years behind any other market that I'm familiar with. You can buy a turnkey single-family home for less than $100,000, and the rent on that is minimum $1,200. I've been a big pressure on the rent ask in this area, because we own the most doors by far. So when all of a sudden we would go to these property conventions where I met you, and these people in similar markets were saying, we're getting $1,200 rent when we were getting $600 before. I was like, well, let's see what we can do. And we were able to get the rents up to what made sense to where you could own a $100,000 house. And I'm going to say the word cash flow loosely. We don't make money on rents, but it pays for itself. And so that the same house would be triple that cost in any other small market. So the big barrier to buying houses is that down payment. You run out of money really quick. When you have to come up with 20% of even $100,000, you run out of money really quick. But especially in Denver, if you're having to come up with, triple that, $60,000, so that is a tough barrier. But in Corbin, you can buy 3 houses for the same house that you would be buying in Denver. So that's the market we're in. And there's all kinds of housing opportunities because our infrastructure is old. So if you have a little bit of pain tolerance for remodeling, you have unlimited options. That's how we got to 80 so fast. We were buying the worst house on the block, which, that's no new concept. But the worst house on the block in our area only cost us $15,000. And so we still had to put the 50, 60 in it, but it saved us so much money on the down payment because we partnered up with a bank that doesn't charge us down payment money on the construction loan. So, that's probably not unique to us, but we talked to a million banks before, and only one bank did that in our area, and we use them for years and years. But yeah, so that's my market. You can get a really cheap fixer upper for $15,000, $20,000 still, and you can get a turnkey. We just bought a turnkey 3-bed, 2-bath for $90,000.
You guys have tapped into the market so well. You really have your finger on the whole pulse of the market. And I know we'll get into the social media piece in a minute. I really want to get to that, but I want to lay some additional foundation first. So you have your finger on the pulse of the market to the point where you've actually created a program where you are bringing other investors into your market and helping them, not just helping landlords who happen to own properties there who need a property management company. You're not just helping them manage their properties, but you actually have a program where you are actively searching for properties to then, I don't know if flip is the right word, but to convert over into one of your clients in order to hold those. And I know you guys have had a couple of opportunities. I don't know if they've closed yet, so if you want to talk about them, but I know you have a couple of big opportunities here recently, and the number of doors that you're doing in a month, if you want to share a little bit of that, if you could.
The biggest barrier to buying real estate is the down payment money, and we were just broke all the time because if I had $15,000 laying around, we'd go find a house to buy. And sometimes there'd be 2 or 3 or 4 opportunities, but we just didn't have the money. So we reached out to some like small investors that would give us $20,000, $30,000 here or there for like a really good opportunity, and we would buy the house, we would add whatever value we needed and then sell it and split the profit with the with the investors. But it was still really slow, and we were still saying no to some really good deals because we didn't have the money. So someone that you've known for years, we partnered up with a guy that kind of runs in the same circles as the property management convention that I was talking about in ARPM earlier. And so he's given us almost a blank check is for right now. I mean, but anyway, we're using his money to either put the down payment down or buy it in cash. And what he has done is made it so that we can now, instead of buying 2 or 3 houses a month, this month we've bought 24 houses. Today we closed on a single portfolio that was 10 doors, and they're in rough shape, but 10 doors we paid $140,000 for, so $14,000 a door. They're fully rented. Average rent's probably $600. So we paid with cash. There's not going to be a loan. There's not going to be interest payments. It's literally just going to be whatever small maintenance we do, if any, and insurance. And we're going to turn around and try to sell them for more than $14,000 a door.
Yeah.
And they're certainly worth more than that. And the reason we get these opportunities is because of our social media. I'm the guy that is posting We Buy Houses. And it's just amazing how many people will reach out and say, hey, I heard you buy houses. If you ever see those signs in the intersections that just say We Buy Houses and phone number, I mean, that's what we're doing, but on social media.
I just want to point out the difference in the market from where you're at to where I'm at. So in Denver, there's a high-rise building downtown where they sell parking spaces, and you have to own a unit in that building in order to buy the parking space, but they're deeded separately, and those sell for about $70,000. So
my gosh,
just for a slab of concrete. So much different market. I know that a lot of people are and would love to connect with you on possibly being one of the investors that you manage for.
We on Monday we closed on an 8-door deal for $240,000. So it was like $31,000 a door, and these are fully rented, downtown location in our area. And what we're doing is we've got 160 doors we manage. That's a pool of investors for you. Obviously, most people are accidental landlords, but what we found is when we educate our accidental landlords, they want more doors. So now we've got, anytime we have an opportunity for one of these flips, we have 30 people built in that we reach out and we sell our stuff within. It's as soon as we can get all the information, get pictures, and send it out. Usually about a week, because we have 3 or 4 people that will go look at it, and then we'll basically say best in best and brightest offers by Friday at 5 p.m. So that, yeah, it's been really nice, but also we work very, very hard to get those leads.
I know that we've been working together a little bit on helping structure the property management side so that it can be a little bit more efficient. Tell me about some of the challenges that you've been facing while you're in this growth phase, because you went from you still have your legal practice, then you've got your real estate practice. You guys are doing your own flips, you're doing your own investments, you're working with investors, you're bringing these people in, you're growing your property management business quite substantially. And how are you managing all of that? How are you able to kind of keep your finger on the pulse? And I won't say without having things fall through the cracks, just because I know that busy people are always having things fall through the cracks. It's more about managing that when it does. But tell me a little bit about that process.
I have a brother, Blake Freeman, and him and I have been partners since day one in the real estate. He's an attorney with me at my firm. We have great staff at my law firm. 9% of our practice is car wrecks, so personal injury, and we're not in court very much. If we were in court, it'd take up a lot of our time. Most of my practice is letters, and my assistant can do the letters. I go up there, make sure that there's no mistakes, sign it, and get out the door. Once I send a letter, I'll get a call from an adjuster. We'll settle the case. I do most of my practice just from my office, so that's nice as far as time demand from the law. But my brother is in charge of the maintenance company. We created a separate entity called Freeman Brothers Maintenance LLC, and that has all of our employees there on the maintenance side, its own insurance, its own bank accounts, make it really nice and clean. And also just from a liability standpoint, if one of our guys runs over somebody in our work van, it's our maintenance company on the hook, not anything else. We thought that was wise just from a liability management standpoint. I don't know if a lot of people do that or not, but it's a no-brainer for us. But my brother handles a maintenance company, and wrapped up in that are our flips and, when we have to get the houses ready to resell. And I'm in charge of the sales. So we've got a really clear line of divided tasks. And he doesn't even know anything about the flips hardly. He went to a closing this morning that I couldn't be there for, and he didn't know anything about the deal, but we were buying 10 doors. I mean, he literally looked at the settlement sheet this morning for the first time. But then he'll tell me in a week or two, they're ready to sell. And I'm like, great. I don't even have to think about it. And he doesn't talk to me about it because, like you said, we're so busy. If we were over every single aspect of our companies, things would fall through cracks a lot. Mistakes would be made. But we also have 5 managers under us that we pay very well, but they're also very talented. That's why I pay them well. But that's how we stay on top of everything.
I want to talk about the maintenance company just a little bit, because I know there are a lot of property management companies that as they get to a certain size, they get to a certain scale, whether it's in door count or just volume on the maintenance side, they all look at, okay, should I bring maintenance in-house? Should I create a separate maintenance company? Should I do a maintenance markup? What is the best road forward for me when I'm looking at maintenance in order to monetize that a little bit? So
if maintenance is in-house, please spin it off into its own LLC for one. But two, we have added as many in-house guys as we can afford. And then after that, just keeping them on the payroll, controlling where they are every minute of the day. And then after that, we hire contractors. And we can't even keep up with the work we've got right now, but we're trying to hire more contractors. And then we just do a 10% markup for our owners. We don't do any third party like public jobs. We only do our stuff and our owner stuff. And we try to keep the cost very, very cheap. I think we bill $45 an hour for our guys, which that might be surprising maybe for the Denver market too. But that's just one of the value add we do for our managed doors is you're not going to find cheaper maintenance. They could never go out and find a guy cheaper. And then we're such a big operation in our small town that the contractors do jump when we call. We do have first priority over anything. But you have to earn that. It takes time, and it takes a lot of work orders that you're sending a plumber to. But we have our own in-house plumber, but even he can't keep up with the amount of volume. So we do a hybrid model. Hopefully that answers your question. I kind of went all over the place.
Yeah, from an online reputation standpoint, I want to ask you a question about when you guys spun that off. There's discussion between, do I keep it named the same as my management company? We see this with real estate companies too. There'll be realtors that decide to do property management, and so they'll get into property management and they just do it under the same brand. And then to expand that one step further, we have property managers that want to do maintenance, and they look at, should I create a separate brand? Should I use the same brand? Obviously, you guys have great name recognition under the Freeman brand. Did you ever consider renaming it or branding it as something different so that there was an entirely separate entity and I guess just a different brand that people wouldn't associate, so that you could do work for other property management companies or other homeowners without them feeling like they're tying it to your property management company? What was your thought process on that?
We talked about it, but no one ever presented a good enough argument for branding it anything different. We'd worked so hard to make the Freeman Brothers Properties, Freeman Brothers Realty name big in our area that I felt like we certainly want to piggyback off that. Plus, it's hard naming things. It's one of my least favorite things to do. And so once we decide Freeman Brothers, ... whatever the company's going to be, we just didn't look back. So we've got, all of our entities are Freeman Brothers, and then whatever. So like our flip company, Freeman Brothers Capital Investments. I mean, I'm that way with design too. If I find a paint color I like, that's what we're going to use for the next 10 years. So if you can give me a compelling reason to do to brand it separate, I'm happy to hear it. I've just never heard of a good reason not to take advantage of the goodwill and name recognition we already had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's definitely a good approach. The other approach is to just create that separate entity so that when the maintenance company is trying to get business from other property management companies, they don't feel like, okay, this is Freeman Brothers. They're going to go into my investment properties. They're going to talk to my owners. They're going to try to steal our clients. And then the other thing is just, the online reputation has become so important. Your Google reviews, your Yelp reviews, having that reputation. And I think some people like to separate out. Let's create a separate entity for our sales division and for our maintenance, just to be able to separate the level of services that we're providing and the types of services, so that we're only getting reviews for those services. So I don't know if it's right or not, but
if we were in a bigger market, we probably would have to look at the different tactics like that. But for our market, we're the only professional property management company within 90 miles of any direction. My town sits right between Knoxville, Tennessee and Lexington, Kentucky. Both are exactly 100 miles away, and those are the closest to other property management companies. So there's no one to compete against as far as that. If we did have those considerations, it might make sense to spin it off, but we're just really the only game in town. All the other doors are self-managed by owners. We've had some property management companies try to come in to our area, but they're running up against the same wall that every other property management company runs into, is that, we're self-managing until we're not. And then when they're not self-managing, they're calling us because we're local and we have the name recognition.
Well, I think that's something key. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the presence that you've built in the marketplace, because you mentioned you're the only game in town, and it's a little bit like building a moat around your castle, right? You've done enough in the marketplace that has allowed you to create an opportunity where you continue to be the only game in town. And part of that is you're able to get these opportunities to buy these flips, to buy these large scale projects for your investors, where you can turn those over to them and then continue to manage those. You get those opportunities because people know who you are.
Right.
It's you being in front of people. You have created yourself as the authority in the marketplace, the people who know what's going on. And I know that just from our previous conversations, that in real estate, that wasn't always the case. So let's talk a little bit about how you grew that presence online so that people started knowing who you were. So what was the first thing you did to say, okay, we're here, we're the Freeman Brothers Property Management, let's start getting the word out? What did you do with that?
So November of 2021, we realized we just create a sales company, and I've never had a sales company before. So I went on, I was trying to think, how's the best way to advertise, best bang for our buck. We tried radio, we tried billboards. Radio was probably the worst of them, but our area still does listen to a lot of radio, and it did give me some pleasure driving around and hearing one of our ads on the radio, but that was more vanity than benefit. But And then, I started looking on Facebook and seeing some of these big pages that had millions of followers, and these big, like just individuals. They had like 3 million followers. So I started following every page over 3 million followers. It was an individual person, and looking at what they were doing to grow their page, or what they were doing with their daily habits. And what I realized is that people were posting a lot, and that was helping with the engagement. So November 2021, I started posting 6 times a day on Facebook, and posting daily on TikTok, and not as regular. Well, at Facebook and Instagram, because those are linked, 6 times a day, and then on YouTube as much as I could. I wasn't. I was posting pictures, and YouTube's video. So at that time we weren't doing a lot of video, so we didn't post. But on Facebook, I posted 6 times a day, and I've been doing that every day, even till today. And so we went from our Facebook page is Freeman Brothers Properties. I created it in 2016 when I created the company, but I didn't. Every once in a while, if we had a unit available, I'd post it on there. So we had around 3,000 followers in 2021. Today, I've got 12,000 on the page in a town where there's only 8,000 people. So I've got, obviously, I'm reaching everybody in town, but I'm also reaching a much bigger audience. But another thing I did that, I guess without sounding braggadocious, I created property rental groups. Anybody can create a group on Facebook. And all I said was Corbin Houses and Apartments for Rent. That grew so much faster than my Freeman Brothers Properties Facebook page. The same group I started in 2021 when I started actually pushing my Facebook page. It's at 25,000 people in the group, whereas my personal Facebook, or the company Facebook page, is at 12,000. And so I was like, wow, that's growing so much faster than my business page. So then I said, Lexington Houses and Apartments for Rent, Northern Kentucky House and Apartments for Rent group, Bowling Green, which is Western Kentucky House and Apartments for Rent. And those groups all exploded. And since I own the group, I set the settings to only I'm allowed to post. So if you go to any of those posts, it's only Freeman Brothers. And they're all the biggest property groups in that area where they are. And it's Northern Kentucky, which we don't own anything up there, but hopefully one day. But those groups just exploded, so that now every time I post something on Facebook, I reach 70,000 people with each post. So and anyone can do that anywhere. In Denver, all you got to do is say Denver House and Apartments for Rent group, and people just swarm to it because the rental market's just massive no matter where you are. There's always going to be more renters than buyers. I mean, it's no brainer. But and then the other thing too that I did was, instead of pouring money into boosting a post on Facebook, because I used to do that. I'd say, okay, we've got a house a house for rent. Let's throw $600 at Facebook to advertise it. All boosting does is it puts you on someone's phone, but there's no engagement. People just swipe by it. So what I started doing was doing a giveaway for the same amount. I'll say, okay, if you share and like and comment this post, I'll enter you into a drawing to win $200, and we're going to draw names in 5 days. I would get 500 shares, 300 comments, so much more engagement, real engagement. I would have had to pay $6,000 to Facebook to get the same amount of engagement. If you could. Now, I don't think you can, because all the boosting on Facebook does is put you in front of somebody's face. It doesn't mean they're going to click on it or share it or like it. So those have been my strategies as far as the growing of the Facebook. Post 6 times a day, start and control the Facebook groups. And if I do feel like I've got something that's boost worthy, I just do a giveaway. And that keeps the money in your small town. You're giving it to people that really need it, and you're getting real engagement. Anytime someone shares it to their page, all their friends groups are seeing Freeman Brothers now. So it's a system that feeds itself.
I want to dig into a couple of things. The first one was, you mentioned you post 6 times a day. And because, just like any other habit, that's become easy for you, or easier, I'll say. I won't say it's easy. But I imagine somebody listening to this saying, okay, well, all I got to do is post 6 times a day for 3 years. That sounds horribly massive. And I have no idea what to even post 6 times today, let alone another 6 times tomorrow. So what did you do to figure out what content you were going to post? And then how do you make it different so that when you're posting something, it's not just so repetitive that people unfriend you or unsubscribe you because they're tired of seeing the same thing?
Facebook has, for professional pages, a separate app called the Facebook Suite app, and it gives you all the numbers, how many people saw your post, how many people interacted with your post. So at the beginning, I was very much trial and error. We always have stuff for rent. So any property management company out there, you always have something for rent. So why would you not post every single thing you have for rent every day till it's rented? So that was an easy built-in thing. Then when we started doing sales, fortunately, we always have a few listings. Why not post every listing you have all the time till it's sold? Because Facebook is where people are watching TV now. It's where people are going to socialize. So that's where you need to be marketing. I posted stupid stuff that didn't work. Like, hey, anybody watch the football game Sunday? Zero engagement. That's not why people were coming to me. They were coming because they were looking for something to rent or buy. But you got to start posting, and then you'll look at the numbers and then just chase the numbers. What I realized is people only cared about rentals. So the rental post would get 6,000 views, and the, hey, did anybody catch the game last Sunday? What'd you think? Would get 200. So I was like, well, why am I posting about football? I don't even care about football that much anyway. So what I do care about is real estate, and I enjoy real estate. And, now you just got to look at Facebook or social media as part of your job. I mean, marketing is just as important as anything else. So 6 times a day, it's your job. That's what you got to do.
So take me down the path of, okay, we're going to post one of our rentals. Is it just, you're just pulling up a picture and posting that? Or I've seen a couple of things from you where you're actually doing a walkthrough, you're standing out in front of the property and you're talking about it. So what's the mix? Like, can I just throw my marketing photos up? Can I do that sometimes? Do I have to always be on camera walking through? Like, what's getting the most engagement there?
So Facebook, for my content, prioritizes the multiple picture posts. And they like the multiple picture posts because it requires engagement. You have to click on it, and then you have to you have to swipe for the next picture, swipe. So the more pictures you can add to one post, Facebook likes that the most because the algorithm's happy with engagement. They want people touching your screen, and those posts get the most touches. The second best are Reels. Facebook pushes Reels, even though they don't get as much actual engagement as the multi-picture post. And then long-form video does the absolute worst. I just did the most expensive, fanciest video, 20-minute video I've ever done. I probably invested around $1,000 in it. It got 20,000 views. But the only reason it got so many views is because I said, if you like, share, comment, I'll enter your name into a giveaway and give you $200. So it got 600 shares. It got 20,000 views. It wouldn't have got that if I hadn't done the giveaway. And that's the most views I've ever gotten from a long form video. But the Reels, they'll get millions without me having to do anything. And the multi picture gets, that's just the nature of it, gets the most engagement. But as far as like getting the engagement too, it might sound a little scummy, but it's very important to leave out one important piece of information when you post, so that people have to go looking for that very important piece of information. So I'll post, hey, here, look at these pictures of this beautiful 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for $1,100 in Corbin. Call us and look at it. I don't say anything about being pet friendly. I don't say anything about deposit. People ask the same 3 questions. Do you accept HUD? Is there a deposit? Do you allow pets? So if you leave out one piece of information, that also helps. And I train my agents to do that as well. You'll see someone post a house for sale, but they won't list the price. It's a big, beautiful, pretty house with all these pictures. Where's the price? Maybe I can afford it. So it makes people engage with your stuff some more.
Okay, tell me a little bit about the groups, because I know you mentioned you have multiple groups. I think one of the groups don't you have a group that you bought or transferred? I don't even know if that's technically legal in their terms, but it doesn't matter. You were able to work with the administrator of the group. And so tell me a little bit about that.
So I tripped and fell into the group strategy. I was sharing all of my rental properties to this buy-sell trade group called Corbin Buy-Sell Trade. And you'll notice if you look on Facebook, the buy-sell trade groups are the biggest category of business. People do truly go there and treat it like a marketplace. I've got a car for sale. I've got a picture frame for sale. So I post on there, and this woman had, for whatever reason, listed in the name buy, sell, rent. For whatever reason, and she, without putting any effort in, grew it to 3,000 people. 0 effort, not doing anything. Didn't even know I don't even know if she actually created it from the beginning. Because if the administrator deletes their account, a group will just appoint somebody. And so it's like, you've got this 3,000 member group. How'd you do that? And she goes, oh, I don't know. And there's typos, misspellings in the name. It was it was shocking. So I was like, hey, will you make me an admin? And she's like, you can just have it. And I was like, okay. So I cleaned it up. I deleted the buy sell and I just said Corbin, Kentucky apartments and houses for rent. And it grew to 6,000 really, really quick. And then I looked at the market and said, oh, there's a group over here that has 10,000. I reached out and the person said, I didn't even know I was the admin on it. So clearly the person that created the group had deleted their post, and then Facebook just nominated somebody that didn't even know they were in charge. And I said, hey, I'll give you $100 if you give me the group. And they're like, to them it was a free, money from heaven, because they didn't even know they had the group, and all they had to do was make me admin. I deleted them, and then I Venmoed them $100. So I got one group for free. I would have paid way more than $100, but whatever, it's worth it. Whatever it's worth to get 10,000 people that you can just blast 6 times a day. I mean, it's hard to put a price on that. And then the other groups, and I changed that one to Corbin houses, apartments for rent, just a little variation. And then that's when I was like, these groups are growing way faster than my personal business page. So then I just looked around the state and said, where are the big markets? And I created Northern Kentucky, which is where Cincinnati is. That's the biggest city around within, Northern Kentucky house and apartments for rent. And that grew 2,000 in less than a year. So so that's how I did the groups, and anyone can do it.
So let's talk about that one that you created from scratch and took from 0 to 11,000. I've tried to create a few groups over the years, and you get a little bit of engagement in the beginning, and then it kind of falls off. And part of that, I'll take a lot of the blame for. I mean, obviously, I own all the blame, but you start to get it activated, and then if you're not the one continuing to be active in it, then other people don't post or they're not active. And I know in your case, it's a little bit different, even in that you change the settings on it so that you're the only one that can post. So number one, how do you get people, what strategy are you using to get people to sign up? And then what value are you providing them to get them to stay in the group and not just say, hey, I'm ready to bounce because I've already found my rental property?
I'm speculating, but every once in a while, if someone wants to post, they have to get my permission. So in the Northern Kentucky group, there are 2 or 3 trusted property management companies up there that have reached out to me and said, hey, do you mind if we post on your group? And I said, absolutely. The problem is 99 out of 100 requested posts are spam or fraud. So you almost have to control who can post. But I even said I even did a post my group, message me if you want to post. That way I am adding value. But every once in a while, someone will try to post, hey, how come it's only Freeman Brothers and Corbin posting on this group that's 300 miles away? And I just don't let it go through. And I don't know what value I add, but also people are just moving all the time. I've never seen someone, I've asked people too, it was like, so what was the value of you join this group and then find something for rent? And then why'd you stay? Like, well, because I'm going to need someplace to live next year. So that's the only value I think we're adding. But also the algorithm is so hungry. If you're posting 6 times a day to a group about nothing, you're going to grow. You're just going to grow. I mean, you might have to approach it with a different strategy, but the algorithm just wants posts. It wants people looking at your stuff. And it just kind of grew that way. I've been diligent though. No matter if I'm on vacation, whatever, the Facebook software on the back end for the creator, you can schedule posts up to 90 days out. So you really don't have any excuse not to post 6 times a day. Also, I mean, how many interesting things are you doing every day? I know you're doing something interesting every day. You're talking to someone interesting. You might be having a company meeting internal, but what did you guys talk about? We do that. We try to mix it up a little bit, but if you really look around, you're doing so many interesting things every day. So why not post about it if it's going to help your business?
So you're getting tens of thousands of views on every single post that you're putting out 6 times a day. You're getting hundreds of thousands of views in your group posts. And then you've layered on top of that a podcast that you put out. Tell me a little bit about the podcast and how that ties into your overall marketing plan.
So the podcast is great. We do 15 to 20-minute interviews with local business people, hopefully real estate related, but not always. I'll grab one of our owners that maybe only has a door. I grab one of our owners that had 10 doors. I ask them, just like you're asking me, how'd you get started? What are some lessons you learned? Whatever. The podcast doesn't really matter. What it does is I post my 20-minute podcast on a software called Opus AI, and it creates reels like 15 reels instantly. It takes 20 minutes to upload it. You click make some reels. And so the reels are the value of the podcast. The reels give me an infinite source of meeting that 6 posts a day need. And also, if I'm doing an agent that's a sales agent, it gives them stuff to post. And I'll just put it in Opus. I'll text the agent, like, post this. Sometimes my agents aren't on board, but hopefully, in theory, the agent posts it and helps their engagement. So that's the value of the podcast. I've spent $10,000 on my studio with the renovation of the room, the furniture, the cameras, the lighting. But the value's not been in the views or in the social media engagement. It's been saying, oh, by the way, we buy houses. And so people are saying, I love your podcast, whatever. I don't think it's as good as I can make it. But what they say is, I love your podcast. We have a house that we look at it. And so the podcast has driven so many people to us to buy their house. And that's been the value.
I think that's something that's really important. I talk about that a lot with clients that are looking for ways to grow. Number one, you need to be seen as an authority figure in the market space. You are somebody that if I wanted to know something, I wouldn't go to anybody else, because you've put yourself out there showing that you know so much about the Corbin, Kentucky marketplace that it would be silly for me to use somebody else, to try to self-manage, because you've provided so much value and you've elevated yourself up above the noise. And it's the same thing with the podcast. It just layers on your ability to present yourself as, we are the experts, we're the authority, we are the space makers here. If you want to engage in real estate in Kentucky, in Corbin specifically, you guys are the company to work with.
You said something to me 5 months ago. I'm sure you don't even remember, but you said you're not an expert because you're an expert. You're an expert because you're talking. It's something that was the concept, and that's so true. And I said that to one of my managers, and they're like, you just blew my brain. I'm listening to you because you're talking. That's the only reason that I think, or it's something like that.
Yeah, I think the quote is, people don't teach because they're experts. They're perceived as experts because they teach.
Right. And that's so true.
Yeah. So if you're just out there constantly telling people about the marketplace, there are things that you and I know that we just think is everybody knows. And that's I think they call it the curse of knowledge or something. We just assume that everybody else knows what we know. And
I do that in arguments too. Like if we're having a negotiation, or maybe we're arguing a point, sometimes I won't make a certain point because I think it's just so obvious. Like we're past that certain point, but then I realize, wait a second, I need to at least say it, make sure that we're actually have the same foundation of knowledge. And a lot of times I'm surprised, A, they might have already known it, but B, it's powerful just to hear it. Okay, yes, I know that that's a point you can make, but when you actually hear it, it is powerful. So I'm trying to work on that. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not just assuming everyone has the same foundation of knowledge. And that was a good flip switch for me in my professional life.
I think there's something that you can take away from Coca-Cola. They don't need to be putting out marketing so that we learn about their product. Everybody knows about their product. They put out their marketing to keep us top of mind, to make us remember that when we are looking for something in that category, it's a no-brainer. We're always thinking about them. We're always seeing them. And I think that as company owners, as entrepreneurs, we need to be doing that same thing on some level, whatever level we can. The more exposure we have in the marketplace, the more we're perceived as an expert, the more we're able to deliver the value, which actually in turn makes us the expert.
I agree. I mean, obviously I've taken that to the extreme maybe on social media, but it's working right now.
No, I love it. I love it. I want to give people an opportunity to connect with you. You guys are doing some really great things out there. I know that you guys are finding more opportunities. You guys are coming across more opportunities right now than you can actually take advantage of. I know that's why we put together that other program where you've got the bankroll now to be able to capture a lot of these opportunities that you're coming across. If somebody was interested in participating in that, becoming one of your investors that invests in your marketplace, I want to make sure that you give them a way to get a hold of you. We'll put it down in the show notes, but is there anything specific that you want to address before we wrap up with that program?
Follow us on Facebook at Freeman Brothers Properties. It's me. I don't have a, excuse me. I don't have an assistant. It's me. If you're messaging the page that comes to my phone, I spend a lot of time on there, because I want to manage the leads, and, I do get questions on there like, hey, how can I invest? Or hopefully someone's messaging me, I've got a house for sale. But follow us on Facebook at Freeman Brothers Properties and shoot me a message. I mean, I'd love to connect and talk, to tell you how we're doing things. Like Tony said, we used to say no to a lot of deals just because we didn't have any money. But we're getting 3 or 4 messages a day, people on Facebook in this area saying, I heard you buy houses. Will you look at ours? And that's still happening. We got 3 messages this morning. I woke up to 3 messages. So I just shoot those leads over to my sales manager of the realty company, and then she evaluates them to make sure that there's an actual deal there. And then she negotiates it. All of a sudden, we've got a house, and we do what we need to do to either sell it to an investor or put it on the market and flip it.
It's been really exciting for me to be a part of your journey in some small way. And it's been really exciting to see all of this stuff coming together for you. I want to give you the opportunity to have the last word. If you were to encourage people to create the same type of presence that you have, whether they're in a big market or a small market, what last words of advice would you have for them in building the presence the way that you have?
Treat it like a lunch pail job. Have you heard that saying? Like carry your lunch pail. So it's kind of in our area. We're a coal mining town, but treat the social media like your lunch pail every day. Bring it to work. Post every day. Treat it like it's part of your job, because it is. And the dividends are going to far outweigh the pain of just that repetitive posting. I mean, you got to do it, and I mean it changed our lives, and I mean it can change anybody's lives.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave it. So Barrett, thanks so much for joining us. You've shared a lot with our audience, and I know I appreciate it, and I'm sure they do too.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks for tuning in to the Property Management Success Podcast. We'll be back with another value-packed episode to help you level up your property management game. If you've got something valuable out of today's episode, please share it with a friend or colleague, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so you never miss out on future insights and strategies and tactics. Until next time, here's to your success.